Okay, now we're going to script a few things. So first, um, create a new game object. You're going to go to game object, 3D object, cube, and this cube is going to have the following attributes. It is going to have a box collider, a rigid body, give it a mass of, 20 or something. It uses gravity, and it's going to have a bouncy surface. We already created a bouncy surface material before. You're going to drag it on here. So underneath materials, on the cube, you're going to grab the bouncy surface and you're going to put it right there on the box collider. So then we're going to create a script. You're going to do add component, new script, and it's going to call it jumping. What's the script going to look like? Well, I've got the script right here. Let me explain what the script does. So it's got a bunch of private items or private fields. It's got a rigid body, RB, a float for a random interval, a float for a timer, set it to 0 as the initial, a float min, which will be 0.5 for the timer, and a max of 4. In the start function, we're going to do that the RB, the rigid body, is the get component rigid body in brackets like this, and then do parentheses that'll actually pass the rigid body that for whatever item it is that's on this script that this script is attached to. You're going to set the random interval to random dot range from min to max, which you placed there. In fixed update, the timer gets the time dot delta time added to it on a regular basis. You have a rate cast hit info. You're going to check to see if you're on the ground or not. You do that by doing a physics raycast, transform your own, take the transform position of your own transform, do a vector down so that you're pointing downward. You're going to pass the info in, hit info in to get info back, and then a distance of 1.0f. Basically, if it's that close to the ground, it gets a bounce. That determines if it's grounded or not. If it is grounded, then and if the time is past the random interval, then you're going to create a force. I did -100, so a vector 3 from a random range from -100 to +100 for x, for y 25 to 100, for random range -100 to 100. This is assuming you have a mass of 20. Like I said, you might have to do lower numbers if you don't want that much mass. You're going to add to the rigid body a force of type force impulse, and a torque. And this is the force that you put together here. And finally, set the timer back to 0 after you've done this. If you've done all this correctly, then when you run it, you'll end up with a cube that bounces around, pushes you around. So let's put a few of these together. I'm going to put this into the templates folder. Let's call this cube bouncing cube, jumping cube maybe. Drag it in there. Then let's put a whole bunch around the map. All right, let's see what happens when we do all this. Okay, now you got some obstacles that are bouncing around the map. Okay, so that is the next thing we're going to add.